Off and I'm a mess. Excellent. Good morning, everyone. There's a nice crowd. There's 29 of you. This is fantastic. My name is Meg Viss, and I'm acting outreach coordinator temporarily while until Mary gets back for Seniors NL. And I'm just going to share my slides. So welcome this week to Let's Talk About Building Our Mental Wellness. Prior to starting, there was a little bit of chat about how timely this is. We'd like to start first, though, by acknowledging the United Way and their ongoing support for our Let's Talk About and our Just Ask sessions. They make it possible for us to do that, and we're very, very grateful for that. And there will be a little bit of housekeeping. So if you could please mute your mics, I know everybody's used to that now, blocking the outside noise, and also some feedback that sometimes we get. Captioning is on, so you should be able to see that at the bottom of your screen and enable or disable if you would like. Throughout the presentation, and you're keeping your mics off, if you could put your questions and comments in chat, that would be fantastic. We'll be keeping an eye on that for our speaker. The session, as you know, is being recorded, and we love it when you send us suggestions for presentations. So again, feel free to throw it in chat if you have any ideas for future sessions, or send an email to Mary E@seniorsnl.ca. You can also call us locally, St. John, 709-737-2333. or 800-563-5599. And not to worry if you don't write down any of this information, because when we send you the recording of this session, we'll also be sharing the slides. So there'll be a slide that will have that information on it for you. Okay. Yeah, hold on. Now I'm going to ask Barb to take us through and allow us to acknowledge the land that we live on.
We respectfully acknowledge the land on which we gather as the ancestral homelands of the Beothuk, whose culture has now been erased forever. We also acknowledge the island of Uktahunguk as the unceded traditional territory of the Beothuk and the Mi'kmaq. And we acknowledge Labrador as the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Innu of Nitassinan, and the Inuit of Nunavut, and the Inuit of Nunatsiavut. We recognize all First Peoples who were here before us, those who live with us now, and the 7 generations to come. As First Peoples have done since time immemorial, we strive to be responsible stewards of the land and to respect the culture, ceremonies, and traditions of all who call it home. As we open our hearts and minds to the past, we commit ourselves to working in a spirit of truth and reconciliation to make a better future for all.
So based on today's session, that one, your reading of the land acknowledgement that time spoke a little even truer to me today. So we're going to talk about building our mental wellness. I'm going to introduce you shortly to our speaker. But I am going to say that from my own perspective, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I can't recall a time, probably almost in my life, when it feels like almost everything is turned upside down. Wherever I turn a corner, I'm meeting something that's a little tilted at least, if not upside down. I do feel myself being drawn into a lot more drama than I have any comfort being in. And it may be drama that is direct, or drama that's indirect, or I'm heading down rabbit holes that I shouldn't be heading down. And more than I've certainly ever experienced in my life. I feel like there's not enough time in my life right now to process the inputs that are coming at me, because they seem to be coming fast and furious. And for the first time that I can think of, we're all in it together, yet going through all of our own individual lives and I find it sometimes hard to be there for people when there's just so much of it on the go. And that's not who I am, and that's not who I want to be. So today's session is an opportunity for all of us to get together to learn what it's like, learn what living in a pandemic has done for our mental health, and how to overcome these stressors and build our mental wellness. So I'd like to introduce Monica Fletcher. I'm going to let Monica introduce herself in more detail, but she's the Public Education Supervisor with CHANNAL. CHANNAL is the Consumers Health Awareness, Newfoundland and Labrador. It's the only nonprofit provincial organization that's created by and for individuals living with mental health and addictions. And the mission of the organization is to inspire hope for recovery and improve the quality of life for individuals living with mental health and addiction issues, as well as those who support them. So I am going to stop sharing. One more thing before I do that is that Monica is going to respond to your questions at the end of the presentation, including questions that came in when you registered and those in chat. And if time allows, at the end of it, we'll also open up the mics for additional questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand this over to Monica.
Good morning. How's everybody this morning?
Good.
We're doing awesome. Yeah, to echo what Meg was saying there about living during a pandemic, it's certainly added to our stresses a lot, and I'm going to touch on some of that during the presentation. So I'm Monica Fletcher. I'm the Public Education Supervisor. So I develop and design and deliver the training, the workshops, the presentations that come from CHANNAL inside and out. So I handle all the training for the staff that we hire, as well as other organizations looking for, support in dealing with critical calls or offering some peer support within their organizations. So I'm going to share my screen here. That is not the one I wanted. I'm going to not share my screen. Stress, okay. Sorry about that, I had it open.
Monica, that is my life.
Okay, it's there. I know, it's just like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? Okay. So I'm going to open up actually, there's a couple of slides in a different training that I want to show, because I think it gives a better idea of what we're going through right now and how it affects our stress tolerance and being able to deal with, just the daily things of life, or the daily stuff of life. All right. There we go. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is, as Meg mentioned, who we are and what we do. So she's right on the money. We are the only province-wide organization run for and run by people with mental illnesses and or addiction issues. So we are a living experience organization, and all of the services that we offer come through the lens of lived experience. Everything that we offer includes peer support and all the different programs. We do one-on-one services, we do the warm line, and I'm going to get into that a little bit further, is all given through that lens of lived experience. And everybody in our organization.
Excuse me, we're getting some feedback. I don't know if somebody's line is not muted. On this end, there's a lot of whistling feedback.
Okay, hang on now. I wonder if that's my mic, because I had my, hang on. I'll just, is it whistling now?
No.
All right, I'm going to try my other headset. How that works. How does
It's better.
Is better?
Yes.
Okay. So we offer all of our services through that lens of that lived experience. So from our executive director on down to every frontline worker we have, everybody has that lived experience. And we're not a volunteer organization. A lot of people think that we offer our services through volunteers, but in order to keep the quality of our services at a good level, we have to hire people, and because there's an awful lot of training that happens during becoming a peer supporter. So peer support, for us at CHANNAL, it is all about mental health and addiction issues. And it's a process, of course, where like-minded people come together and we support each other. And the subject doesn't have to be mental health and addictions. It can be on any topic, but for us, that's what it is. And our peer support is based on the fact that, you know, those of us that have the experience with the illnesses, the diagnostic criterias, the experiences with the system, the clinical process, the medications, the side effects from the medications, we're the ones in the best in the best place to share that information from an experiential point of view. Natural peer support happens all the time. People, if you go have a cup of tea and we sit and chat and someone is supporting someone else, and it doesn't matter again what the topic is. It could be, you know, my car broke down, I don't like my mechanic. Someone says, oh, I had the same problem. I found this really great guy, and you give that person your number. That's a little bit of peer support. People who are single parents can come together and chat. People who, you know, whatever your experience is in life, and you get together with someone else who has had that shared experience with you, and you support one another, that's natural peer support. And we wouldn't be anywhere without it. Support is, there's just that need to have that support from people in our lives, and to support others and share our experiences with people. Part of the reason I got into peer support is because I wanted all the things that I'd been through to mean something. And I wanted everything that I'd been through to support somebody else so that they wouldn't have to go through the pitfalls that I went through in my journey. And that brings in trained peer supporters. And this is what we do at CHANNAL. So it's done very intentionally. We have people come into CHANNAL who are hired by us, who have had those experiences with mental health and or addictions, who are living at a really good level of wellness. And that they've learned to manage their mental wellness so that they can, you know, be a role model for others to say, look, I know where you are, or I've been there, I understand, I really do get it. There's respect. There's no judgment about where you are and the things that you talk about, because we get it, we've been there. So we get to be able to do that. And during our employment with CHANNAL, there's also a lot of really good things put in place so that people can keep their mental wellness. You know, because when you're listening to other people's stories, that's a strain on anybody. But when you also have your own issues that you've dealt with, and that, you know, and when I say dealt with, some issues you've dealt with, but mental illness just keep, you know, there's no cure. It's something you manage for the rest of your life. You know, it's something I will manage for the rest of my life. You know, I was first officially diagnosed 35 years ago or more. Things were very different back then when it came to talking about mental illness or addiction or anything like that. So, you know, things had changed, and I'm so happy that peer support has become such an integral part of the change that's taking place. Again, the peer support in its form that it's in now is rooted in that natural need for the support. Our guidelines that we follow at CHANNAL is based on the Mental Health Commission's in their first mental health recovery guidelines. So that's in there. We're standardized based on that. We're also in line with the psychological health and safety standard. We are an extra resource to support individuals and a collaborative relationship. Peer supporters from CHANNAL show up on clinical teams all across Newfoundland and Labrador. So you'll see some of our peer supporters at doorways, at the Waterford Hospital, and at the new FACT teams that are rolling out across the province. And the purpose is to create that safe place, that sense of belonging. A lot of people who come to CHANNAL and use our services, you know, because of the mental illness, we are probably, you know, a lot of people are estranged from their family of origin. Not everybody, but a lot of us are. And it's really hard to find that place that we belong and we feel safe in. You know, a lot of people who live with mental illnesses put a great deal of effort into wearing a mask. We pretend to be well. We don't pretend to be sick. And a lot of energy goes into that. But when you come into CHANNAL, you're able to just kind of take that mask off, and conversations around, you know, symptoms, medications, if someone is changing medications, doctors, the whole thing, all of that is very normalized conversation, because these are things that affect our wellness on a day-to-day basis. Through peer support as well, at CHANNAL, we have, when I started with CHANNAL 6 years ago, there were 3 people in the management team and there were 3 people in frontline. From that, we've grown into a staff of overall, I think, 32 people in 6 years, sorry. And now we're even hiring a couple more, in the process of hiring a couple more people now. So it certainly has grown, and our services have grown because people really crave for that connection piece. Being able to share with people that I have that lived experience, that I have certain experiences where, you know, some positions don't allow that. That really helps me build that connection. It helps me build that hope and that trust, and I'm able to validate experiences from an experiential point of view. What we are not, so peer supporters at CHANNAL, we're not clinical, we're not therapy, we're not invasive. We don't negate the role of the healthcare provider, and we have found that working together, even on clinical teams, is proving to be such a well-rounded model for supporting someone to mental wellness. Some of the benefits of peer support, I'm not going to go through them all, but they have been shown if someone is struggling and they also have peer support as a part of their network. It's been shown to lower hospital admissions, lower overall number of days, and help learn coping strategies, for just a few. And all of these things, if you're interested in learning more about peer support, there is a book out by the Canadian Commission, the Commission of Health, Mental Health, making the case for peer support. We are standardized, which I mentioned earlier, which is very, very important. We have an ethical practice. And the reason I'm going into all of this is when you are looking for support and you think about peer support, you know who you're coming to. You know who you're sending someone to, because maybe you may recommend that someone come to CHANNAL for some kind of support. You want to know who are you sending them to. And just to let you know that, that really big part that we are standardized, there is an ethical approach, there is a community of practice. So we have all of those things in place so that we offer a good quality of peer support at a really good standard, and that we use our best practices for peer support as well. And there's also a fair bit of training. So when we hire somebody, there's about 6 weeks of intense training. One of it is, one of the courses that they do is a week long. There's a written exam, there's an oral exam, and then there's several other workshops and training that people have to do within their first year. And then they can start working on their mentoring hours. So it can take a couple of years for somebody to actually become a certified peer supporter with CHANNAL. Again, who do we hire? We look for people who are, living well within the experience, that there's a self-identification. You don't have to have a diagnosed mental illness or a diagnosed addiction issue to come and work for CHANNAL. Everybody knows if you deal with anxiety on a daily basis, you know that. If you've been through that experience and you have some recovery involved in that, you understand that, and you understand those experiences. And everybody that works at CHANNAL all has some sort of post-secondary education, and they come from a variety of career backgrounds. We have nurses and teachers and social workers and EMTs and just a whole lot of different professional backgrounds. And the thing that has drawn them to peer support is that shared experience, is that lived experience with mental health and addiction issues. So what do we do? What are our services? We offer, and I know you see closed there, but they are actually just opened this month. We do offer in-person peer support groups. They're structured, they're facilitated by one of our peer supporters. And we talk a lot about, the things that people need to do and to change as they live with a mental illness, those coping strategies, those skills. So we learn a lot of those from each other. And it's during the group that we learn that the most. So right now, one of the best things that came about because of the pandemic is our virtual peer support group. So now you don't even have to be near a CHANNAL office to attend a group. You can attend virtually, or you can, if you're in St. John's, you can attend in person. We offer family support, and that means that support for those that are supporting loved ones with mental health and addiction. And our biggest and most used service as of now, especially since the pandemic, is our warm line. A lot of people ask me what a warm line is. So if you look at the crisis line, which is the line that you call if it's a matter of life or death, if someone is actively suicidal, you will want to call the warm line. They are what I would call the hotline. There's something happening, it needs immediate attention, it's crisis support, that's the hotline. We're the warm line. We're the people that you call before it gets to that. Whatever those issues are. You don't have to have a mental illness to call the warm line or an addiction issue. All you got to do is be human and have some junk that you deal with. And I think that's just about everybody. When you call the warm line, you will get confidential, anonymous support. We don't have call waiting. We don't keep people's numbers. You don't even have to tell us your real name. And that doesn't matter to us, because as long as you're reaching out for help, that's all that we look for, is to support people where they are and how you need it. So that's our CHANNAL warm line. And there will be a slide at the end of it to give you the number if you can't get it from the little poster here. We're open from 9 in the morning until midnight, 365 days a year. We're open Christmas Day, we're open New Year's Day, you name it, we are open. Also, we offer a lot of public education. So there's a lot of professional training. So if an organization is looking for mental health first aid, they can call CHANNAL and get that as well. And coming by the end of the year, we will also be able to offer the ASSIST training, which is the Applied Suicide Intervention Skills training, which if you ever get a chance to do either one of those courses, they're fantastic. Okay. Enough about us. Let's talk about you folks. Let's talk about the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We have stress, positive stress. And we all know that, that positive stress, that feeling of satisfaction, that feeling of excitement, that feeling of a job well done. Positive stress can be, you know, maybe there's a baby being born into the family. Maybe there's a wedding coming up. Maybe you're moving to a city you've always wanted to live in. Maybe you got a job promotion, whatever those, you know, wonderful positive stresses are. It is still stress. However, positive stress focuses your energy. Positive stress makes you feel challenged, but inspired. And it also allows you to grow your self-esteem, because the things you're doing and you accomplish will help that growing of the self-esteem. Again, feeling excited, you're feeling happy. And anything that happens, you know, whether it's that baby that's coming or the wedding or the whatever it is that's happening, you perceive that whatever's happening is within your capabilities. So you're not worried that you're not going to be able to do it. Your capabilities are there, your coping skills are there, you can handle all of it, even though it is, you know, that excitement and that satisfaction, you know, you can handle it. You know, positive stress is a good thing. We have to have positive stress because that's what helps us grow. That's what helps us keep moving. I just decided I've been a seamstress, let me rephrase that. I've been a seamstress to myself and my family and to friends. And I've been doing it for 25, 30 years. You know, I've made most of my uniform because my body shape's a bit funny. So I say funny, but I like to make clothes that fit me. And I find mass produced stuff doesn't do that. So I took it up, 25, 30 years ago. But there last month, I decided to do dressmaking and design course through an online school. And I'm really excited about it. I do have just a certain amount of time to get it done. And there's a fair bit of study involved, which I haven't done now in some time. So there's definitely that stress happening, but I'm really excited about it. Because all of my sewing is self-taught. So I feel like there's all these little things that I don't know that this course is just going to bring together for me so that when I'm done, I can be a more well-rounded. I can, I like to take apart dresses and make patterns from them, but I got to be really careful. They don't always turn out. I have a lot of half-made dresses because there's certain little things I don't know. So from this, turn that off. So from this, I've got that positive stress. It is growing my self-esteem. It is growing my self-confidence. And as I move along, it'll grow my confidence in that particular field. But something like that is what I would call a positive stress because I can't get over actually how much energy and how things have changed for me since I took that course on. It seems like I come home from work now and instead of sitting on the couch and just kind of vegging in front of the TV because I'm tired, I'm up and I'm doing some housework. I'm getting a few more things done because I want it to be really nice and tidy when I sit down and study. It's just one of the quirks I have, but it's really helped me. And I'm actually from that, I've started going for walks again like I did before the pandemic. So it's been a really fantastic thing just from that one little thing that I've taken on that adds that positive stress to my life. So here we go. Some of the things that I talked about, positive stress, buying a home, having a child, beginning a new project, participating in a competition, whatever that is, starting a new relationship, all fantastic things to help us build that positive stress. Then, of course, we have the other side of positive stress, and that's our negative stress. That's when we perceive that the demand on our energy exceeds our personal and social resources. We don't have what it takes, that feeling of, oh my goodness, if one more thing happens, I'm done. The straw that broke the camel's back type of thing. You kind of feel on edge all the time, wondering when that's going to happen, and that you're just carrying so much of a load that it really is overwhelming and wearing you out. Causes of negative stress. How about living through a pandemic? And this is where I'm going to switch here over to the other, here it is. Okay. All right, let me go back. Okay, so here's what we were talking about. Our stress, what causes stress, and our stress tolerance. And what causes a big, huge amount of negative stress is living through a pandemic, right? Again, it's very, very stressful. It overweighs what we have personally, what we may have socially to be able to deal with things. And our stress tolerance goes down. So the stress tolerance that we have is the amount of that stress that you can handle without becoming overwhelmed. And the pandemic, even just in, like, if you don't have any huge stressors, just the fact that we've gone through that has really taken away our stress tolerance of building up. So to build up your stress tolerance, you want to have a good support network, right? So that can include your family and friends, your clinical supports, maybe peer support, maybe you have a therapist or a counselor you talk to. So whatever makes up that support network, your sense of control, having a sense of control really helps us build our stress tolerance. Our attitude and our outlook, our emotional connection, and knowledge. So let's look at that support network. We have a good support network. We have our family, our friends, as we talked about, co-workers, whatever those supports are. Your doctor could be considered a part of your support network. But what has the pandemic done to that, right? Now, during the pandemic, we didn't even get to leave our houses and go see a doctor. They did telephone calls. There's that sense of isolation where families couldn't visit families, and you couldn't see your friends and have that social input from them. People who, like myself, I worked from home for months on end, which then leads me to feeling disconnected, There's a withdrawal and isolation from the mainstream population, as we have all experienced. There's an increased tendency then to blame and criticize others. And during the pandemic, it's also been shown that there's been increased consumption of alcohol and medication to kind of help deal with that uncertainty. Emotional connection. The ability to bring your emotions into balance helps you bounce back from adversity. What has the pandemic done to that? And this is just one thing that's happened. Pandemic is one thing. We also have a bunch of other things in our lives as well. But what has that done to our emotional connection, right? Fewer mental health services, for sure. As you notice, when I went through the slides, there was a lot of closed. So we shut down to all personal in-person services, and so did many other places. Support groups were shut down. Fun activities were closed down. I know people who really relied on going to the gym as a way to deal with their depression and their anxiety. And now all of a sudden they couldn't go to the gym anymore. There's a disbelief about how bad it is, recurring visions of media images about the pandemic and all of that. So there's been a lot of things that have happened that has really broken our emotional connection to people. You may have wanted to go visit family and friends across the island, and then there's fearful thoughts about traveling, right? Then we deal with a lot of forgetfulness, a lot of indecision, a lot of confusion. So if you find yourself kind of walking around going, wait a minute, like, I know we have those moments, you go into a room and you can't remember what you came in for. That's all kind of, people keep telling me it's because I have a lot on my mind and I'm getting older. And I'm like, no, dude, I've been like this in my 20s. I walked into a room when I was in my 20s and I had it happen. But during the pandemic, sometimes I feel like I'm I'm spinning and I'm just not as focused as I would have been. And not having that emotional connection to people really has an effect on us that we probably don't give enough weight to, you know, how much that has affected us, because we're all trying to be really strong, you know. In attitude and outlook. I'm going to try something's not working with my, hang on. Sorry, I can't see the slide there. So increased stress, such as, you know, we embracing those challenges, having a strong sense of humor, accepting change as a part of our life, believing in a higher power of purpose. The pandemic's also had an effect on that. You know, we've even seen the churches being closed, so people can't go for their, you know, their regular connection with people of the same faith. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, irritability, there's sadness and a feeling of uncertainty. So that certainly has a really big effect on our attitude and outlook. And I've even noticed it in myself. I noticed that my outlook isn't as cheery anymore. It isn't as, you know what, everything's going to work out. My attitude always was, and you know, it's going to be fine. Things are going to work out. If it's not fine, it's not over yet. Just wait till everything. But this has been drawn out so long that I find even my attitude and my outlook are starting to suffer because of it. It's been hard. So the more you know about what's happening, the better your stress tolerance. Better knowing about yourself is very important. What increases your stress? What decreases your stress? What are the things that impact your wellness? What are the things that decrease your wellness? So knowledge about yourself is really important. However, and even though, again, we may not be able to put a finger on it, there is that numbness. You know, it's been 2 years of living through this. There's a lack of appetite. There's so much fatigue happening. All of these things are not only affecting our mental wellness, but then when our mental wellness goes down, our physical wellness goes down as well, because it's all connected, right? Everything about ourselves and our mental health and our mental wellness is all connected. Okay, now I'm going to switch back. Any questions or comments on any of that? Has anybody been experiencing any of those things?
Well, I'll go first.
Pardon me?
It's Meg. I'll go first.
Yep.
Dead on. Holy moly.
It is, though, isn't it?
It is. And what I think about is that just to be, and I used to be the most cheerful person you've ever met. I have always been like, you know, nanny optimist, but not the case. And then when you start to, like, when we've been going on as long as it's been going on, real life stressors that normally would have happened if there was no pandemic, some really serious ones like loss of loved ones and things like that. Now everybody's starting to experience those. Early on, there were a few people who had sort of the double hit, but now everybody's having the double hit. Yeah. Because the longer it happens, the more that's going to be the case, which I feel like is having an exponential effect on people.
I absolutely agree. And I think, you know, the fact that during the pandemic, we couldn't get together and grieve. You know, that grieving part, it's, you know, that going to the funeral home, the visiting, the talking about the person, the being, you know, being able to celebrate their lives is such an integral part of grieving that even that was taken away from us. I can't imagine it's so hard to go through that process properly without going through the process, you know? So there's definitely, you're
and like,
right.
and what day is it? I don't know. I never know. Even I'm working. I don't know what day it is.
Yeah. I'm with
and
you.
I've learned to accept that. I don't
Yeah.
know what day it is. And I'm glad I have a phone that will tell me, but
I'm the same.
yeah.
I'm the same way. Absolutely. And I find so many people at work they're dealing with the same stuff. You know, it's just, I have a friend of mine who's, he's currently unemployed, and he says, I don't know what day it is. I don't care. And I looked at him, I said, I work. I don't know what day it is either. Like you know, I have to check my calendar constantly. So all these things have certainly affected us to a great degree.
Interesting, because this morning was the first 10 minutes of what day is today, Tuesday or Wednesday. And I was like, myself and my husband, we battered back and forth. And he's like, no, Noreen, it's not Wednesday, it's only Tuesday. So I had to go and check.
Yeah.
The other piece that I found among many of my seniors, because I have a large club here in Labrador West, is, you know, they lost people who they weren't even allowed to be with them when they passed.
Oh,
so maybe.
Horrible. Incoming call. Incoming. Sorry, I got to turn that off. There we go. Yeah, no, it's been hard, you know, and even if, let's say, somebody just went through the pandemic and had none of that other stuff, you know, had nobody pass away, had nobody get married. I had to watch weddings from Zoom, you know, because people got married and there was only like 4 or 5 people. My daughter actually had a baby in the middle of the pandemic. So, you know, worried about them going into the hospital and coming, you know, so there's all of that happening with it. And when she, you know, she was keeping an eye on all the changes. And here's that uncertainty, right? Part of our stress tolerance is built by having a certain amount of control over the things that happen to us. Well, here she is, you know, 9 months pregnant, and the government's telling her that her husband can't come in with her to have her baby. Right. So she's like, luckily I think about 2 weeks before she gave birth, they changed that. So there's so many things happening that we don't even think about that are affecting people. But imagine even none of that, being in this pandemic alone, not knowing whether or not, okay, can I go to the supermarket today? Can I go to my coffee shop today? You know, do I have to stay in and isolate? Like, what are these things? And we have no control over it. Like, that alone is enough to stress people out. That's a horrible thing.
Monica, Kim stated that in the chat that not being able to make plans for 2 years.
Oh yeah. And all those birthdays, right? I remember like my grandson, you know, he's turning, you know, 3 years old, and I have to celebrate his birthday over Zoom. You know, I mean, I know that we all probably made the best of it, but the best of it is way below what is really good for us and our mental wellness is what is really what happened.
For me, I find that my biggest stressor has been not being able to get medical care. Not only for my physical health, but my mental health. And it's just taking so long to get into places. And the more I feel that I'm stressed, then the more unhealthy I get because of the stressors that I'm going through. And there doesn't seem to be any way to get anything done any faster. And I know I'm not the only one, but that's a big thing for me.
It's huge. It's huge. And I know here in St. John's, where are you located? I mean, it doesn't matter actually where you're located because it's the same everywhere. I know there are certain places who their waiting lists are now up to 2 years long, and they're not taking any more people even for their waiting list anymore. You know, so it certainly has increased volume of need as well, because people who didn't live with a mental illness or addiction issue, because of not being able to build a really good stress tolerance, are now struggling as well because of everything that has happened. I know our call volume on the warm line has gone up dramatically over the pandemic.
And I guess, Monica, I live in Labrador, so to speak to what Leslie just said, you know,
Yeah.
we're sort of remote, and you know, we don't have the services like many rural areas of a psychiatrist, of a psychologist, like we don't have those services before a pandemic. They come on a visiting, so you're kind of very isolated as to when you're really in a crisis. You know, we have our wonderful mental health workers, but you know, we don't have the other resources that, you know, we can apply when if needed, right?
Absolutely. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about what are some of those things that we can control. What are some of those things that we can do for ourselves that will help us, even in this now, build up our stress tolerance. So we're just talking about, and I think we've talked about how I think we fully understand, you know, how the stress has been bothering us and the things that have happened to make us, you know, and all the things that have made us not have that really good quality of life because our stress tolerance is down. Let's talk about self-care. Now, I know the first time someone mentioned self-care to me, I didn't know if it was fit to eat. I didn't know what self-care was. I mean, I was a young mother. I have 5 children. So at the time I had 3 small children, you know, probably one on the way. And this young little, beautiful little woman who's a social worker said, you need to do more self-care. And all I can think is, I don't understand, because I eat and I sleep and I'm still alive, so I must be doing something right. But that self-care is, you know, doing those conscious things that you do or do not do, because there are things that we do that contribute to not having good self-care in order to promote your social, mental, emotional, intellectual selves. So what are those things? A self-care lifestyle, you know, one that every day engages who you truly are. You're involved in the relationships and the activities that you truly love. You have an opportunity to relax and reflect and build your energy. So what are those things? And when I talk about self-care, you know, there's a couple of things that I use that are really good for me. So here's the 5 aspects of self-care. And I have them on my fingers, because every time I feel unbalanced, I can go through these and find out where I'm needing to fill something in. So intellectual, I've taken care of that by taking on a new course. And that has, I can't believe, even though I've been in this business for such a long time and I've been doing this self-care for a long time, that it has really supported me in starting to regain my balance and regain back some of my stress tolerance. You know, learn something new, right? Play a game, watch a documentary. It doesn't have to involve going out and doing a course. Maybe it's, one of the other things I'm going to do now is they have a lot of free online painting things, you know, like where you can get them on and they take you step through the painting, so you can learn something new there. Learn about who you are, learn to play an instrument, take something up. It's really hard to do those things when your stress tolerance is down, when your stress is up. One of the things that I learned from somebody in one of our groups at CHANNAL, there was a group I was facilitating, and he said to me, and it has changed my life, is action before motivation. You got to do the action before the motivation comes. And boy, oh boy, I tell you, that has really helped me, you know, for everything from, you know, doing the dishes, which I absolutely hate, but which is a really good part of my self-care because I love a clean kitchen, to doing a course. Like, you got to do it. And I've kind of turned it into my own little challenge. So what I do with that action before motivation is whenever I got to do something and I'm not finding the motivation, I set my timer for 15 minutes and I do it. When that 15 minutes is up, my goal has been met and I'm free to stop doing whatever that is. But guess what happens? My motivation now comes up. Now I set my timer for another 15 minutes. Once the 15 minutes is up, I'm done. But my motivation has built that I don't even need to set it again. So that action before motivation is something that's really, really helped me kind of, push myself into doing self-care, because self-care sometimes is really hard to do. There's the social part, maybe volunteering, replace judgment with curiosity, join a group online. If that's all you can do to get that social part, meet regularly with the people who are, you feel safe around and who are in, I don't know if people are consciously keeping a bubble anymore, but I've realized with myself, I'm unconsciously keeping my bubble. My steady 20, as they called it during the pandemic, I'm still kind of living within that. But from that, I've made an effort to make sure that I connect. Physical, get out for a walk. Before the pandemic, I was in fantastic shape. I had a trainer. I lifted weights at 6 o'clock in the morning. I felt like I could do anything. Pandemic started, gone. And then I started eating my way out of half my wardrobe. Because that's what stress does to me. I emotionally eat. And I made a lot of my favorite cookies and I ate a lot of chocolate. So now it's getting back to that physical self. For me right now, it's a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk. That's it. I'm not pushing myself any further. I have to build up. It took me 2.5 years to get to where I am now, or 2 years. It's going to take a while to build up my physical self. But I know it's really important, because the less I do physically, I find the more my body hurts. I did not sleep well last night. I couldn't get my sleep, which is a part of my self-care, because I didn't walk over the past couple of days. I need that exercise to help me get my proper sleep, and it all kind of works together. So what's your physical self? Maybe it's get a massage. Maybe it's start gardening. What about your spiritual self? There's meditation, prayer, journaling. There's also your emotional self. Maybe you need therapy. I actually just finished 10 weeks of therapy with a therapist, which has been fantastic. So what are those things in these 5 aspects what is missing from your life right now that you can add to your life to make it a little bit better and to help yourself gain some of that stress tolerance? 5 hard truths of self-care. And I think I'm running out of time. So I'm going to touch on the couple that really affect me and the things that I thought were really important for me getting some self-care done. Self-care often means doing what you don't feel like doing in the present moment to benefit the future self. Because I can guarantee you, when I get up in the morning and take my dog for that little walk, I do not want to leave the house. I do not want to get dressed right away and go for a walk before I've even had a shower, but I do it and then I feel better. When you set boundaries to take care of yourself, you'll scare some people away, and that's okay. And one of the biggest things about self-care, because remember at the couple of slides before, we talked about self-care being the things you do or that you don't do that helps you be a better self for you. So that if you look at one of the last third to last square, neglecting yourself for somebody else, we've taught, is an act of love. But in reality, giving from a place of emptiness only leads to resentment towards yourself and eventually towards the other person, or the other way around, whichever way it goes. You have to fill yourself up before you can be there to fill somebody else up. Take into those 5 aspects of self-care. Try and fill yourself up before you support somebody else. and the 10 components of self-care, or sorry, 10 commandments, 10 commandments. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of my favorites. Eat regularly, preferably sitting down. As a part of my self-care, I get up early in the morning, I do my little walk, and I have a cooked breakfast every single morning. And I get up early enough to do that because it's important for me to start my day sitting at the table, eating, you know, my boiled eggs and having my cup of tea and having that few minutes to myself before I start my day. Be productive, not busy. Connect with people who matter. So as a part of my self-care, so I have, as I mentioned earlier, I have 5 children. So I make sure every week I engage each of them in a heart-to-heart conversation, something that matters, not just, hi, how are you? What are we doing for this? What are we doing for that? What's happening here? It's a conversation with intent. And of course, the last one, I love this as well, be led by your spirit. Is there anything here that particularly speaks to somebody else? Right.
When you say, it's Meg, when you say be led by your spirit, what does that mean to you?
To me, that is listening to what my gut says about things, not taking on, like if someone asks me to do something and I say yes, and my gut says, oh dear, you don't want to do this, then I don't do this. I stop for a second and I listen to myself and my body and I find out what that says, because my first instinct is, okay, you need that done? I'll do it. Yes, I'll do that too. Yes, I'll do that too. And the next thing, I'm overwhelmed with all of these things to do, and I haven't checked in with myself. You know, so before I say yes to something, I take some time, even if I say, I'm not sure if I can, I'll call you back. And I really look at it and make sure that this is something that I not only want to do, but something that I have time to do. And I make sure that doing it is not going to lead to a resentment on my part. So that's one thing that it means.
Yeah, and Kim says in chat, a hot bubble bath.
Absolutely.
And at least once a week of special meal.
Yes, very nice. I like that. I like that.
And the part to have fun at least once a week. Like, even though we were in a pandemic and we all felt down, like, it's important to have fun.
It is. It absolutely is. Being with people that mean a lot to you, and just having a bit of fun and being able to sit back and laugh for a little bit, you know, play some board games, see where that gets you, because there's some funny ones out there. Now, I've even had online, like at the beginning of the pandemic, we call it Eat and Art. So what we would do is, generally me and my friends, once a week we get together, one of us, you know, we hosts it, and then we all cook something, we eat, and then we go create art. One of my friends is into felting. I do some painting. Somebody else is into sketching, and we just all sit around this big table and do those things together while we're having a glass of wine and chatting. Or it could be tea, it doesn't matter. But making an effort to do those things are the things that will help build that stress tolerance. And any time that you're distracted by something as simple as coloring or working on a project, that's giving your body time to repair itself. Because when we have stress, we have all this cortisone and all these chemicals going through our bodies that break our bodies down, break our organs down, you know, dries out our skin, dries up our liver. I know all of those horrible things we don't want to happen. But anytime you're distracted, doing something that makes you laugh, doing something that makes you forget about the day-to-day grind, that helps you relax, your body then can go about the business of repairing all the damage that cortisone has done to your body. So even though it may look like or may feel like you're not doing anything, you're actually getting your mind out of the way so that your body can go about taking care of you. And if you don't give your body that time to take care of you, that's going to be worse on your stress tolerance. And that's it for me. Any questions?
There was one question that came in with registration from Susan Haskell. Can I share that?
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I have a dog and she's getting a little, a little, I don't know, excitable. So, does CHANNAL offer groups with seniors as the target audience?
We don't offer any target audience. The only thing that we offer is if you know, any type of mental illness or addiction. Again, you don't have to have a diagnosis. If you know you've struggled with depression, if you know you've struggled with anxiety, maybe you're just going through a particularly sad time. Because what we find, no matter if it's because of physical illness, a mental illness, whether it's because of things happening in our lives, when we go through those things, we all kind of deal with the same things. We withdraw. There's that isolation piece. There's, you know, your self-esteem is hurt. Maybe your daily functioning is hurt. And those are the topics that we talk about. So in our room, we have, you know, I've facilitated groups where I've had a 19-year-old and a 70-year-old. I've had people with mental illnesses, with addictions, people dealing with, you know, living with others and supporting them. So there's all kinds of different things, but it all has the same, just like our stress tolerance. And when that's built down, like when that's the words, I have ADHD too, words, when that is taken from us, we need certain things to build it back up. So no matter what illness you're going through, whatever your experience is, our groups are all about building up those coping strategies and those skills. Talking a lot about self-care, talking a lot about motivation, positivity. Maybe Christmas is a hard time for people, you know, because family and isolation. So we talk about how to deal with that. So there's a whole bunch of topics that we talk about that help people just be better in their lives and feel better in their lives, whether you're a senior or whether you're a teen.
In the chat, Veronica said that, Monica, you stated that the following in-person supports are or have been closed. In-person peer support groups, in-person one-on-one peer support, in-person family support, community peer support, wellness workshops, support in established peer supports, and everything sort of virtual. Do you know when these closed groups and supports will open?
And I'm going to share this. Here's our, here's our warm line number. So you can also call the warm line looking for information. And if you're looking for information on CHANNAL and what's happening in your region, there's also Facebook pages that will tell you what's happening. We have a monthly calendar that tells us everything that's happening at CHANNAL. So a couple of weeks ago, we opened up in St. John's for in-person groups. Again, I mean, we need to register. We have to watch the amount of people that are there, so on and so forth. In-person peer support sessions. So that's when you can see a peer supporter. Let's say you need to see them once a week or once every 2 weeks for an hour, and you can see the same person. That's opening up very soon, actually, probably within the next week or so. And I would say by the end of April, we should be open to in-person things, but registration will still be required for that.
She asks, so the family support groups, and I don't know if that, what you just talked about now encompasses that as well, have not been active since the pandemic. Has there been, or will there be, virtual or informal supports for families?
Yes, that's actually one of our topics at our managers meeting coming up, is when we're going to open up the family groups again. What we found with the virtual family support group is that people weren't coming. So it's, I'm not in charge of that programming, but you know, people weren't showing up week after week. So they decided that they weren't going to do that anymore, but that they would look at that more. I found, because they found that people would come to the family groups in person, but the virtual didn't work as well.
Okay.
I can't say exactly when that's going to be open, but it's definitely on the table. We are talking about it. And if you want to know, so you can call our warm line and ask, or you can look at our Facebook page and it'll be on our weekly calendar when that's open again.
Okay. I think, are there members of the peer support groups who cannot connect with Zoom or other virtual groups or one-on-one supports? Are there ways they can get consistent support other than the warm line?
Through CHANNAL?
Yes.
Yeah, there's really not. If we do offer one-on-one support through telephone and through Zoom.
Okay, so telephone and online.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I know one sec now. Wonderful presentation, great reminders. Thanks for the information. I have another, oops, Lori had to go, but she really enjoyed it. Hang on. Is someone available to do presentations to groups outside of the metro area?
Yes.
They'll be Zoom?
Well, it depends on where it is. So I will put my email address in the chat.
And I'll share that also.
Perfect. And if anybody is looking for any of that information, you could certainly email me, because I'm the one, it comes through me anyway for anything, even all across the island. But there are, you know, we have CHANNAL offices in Grand Falls, Windsor, and in Stephenville as well. And we have peer supporters all across Newfoundland and Labrador. So it, you know, it depends on where, depends on where, and then we can get something set up, whether it's over Zoom or in person.
Okay, great.
It's channal.ca. Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's the pandemic.
It is at channal.ca. I see Susan asked, how much is mental health first aid? Susan, keep an eye on our Facebook page, because we may be offering some mental health first aid at some very, very good price points. So just keep an eye on that for when that comes up.
Okay. I think that's all the questions in chat. Does anybody have any other questions they want to ask? Okay. I am going to share my screen for a sec. Hopefully the right one this time. Ow! Oh my God, my dog has decided that she's done. Go at me.
She's done being patient.
Yes, she's done. Just a few little things before we close up. If you need a certificate, stop taking that window down. If you need a certificate and you attended the session as part of your professional development, I know we asked when you registered for participants. If you didn't make a mention or whatever, feel free to reach out to Mary E at seniorsnl.ca and just ask for a certificate of completion. In terms of being a friend of Seniors NL, that's an opportunity to be a connector between Seniors NL and other seniors who might have questions, have needs, or anything like that. And if you want to reach out and be a friend of Seniors NL with us, then you can reach out to Mary E at seniorsnl.ca. Also our regular phone number, 737-2333. and the 800-563-5599. We'll take your name, we'll put it on a business card for you so that you actually have those at your hand. So if somebody needs something, you can pass off those cards and they'll have the contact information that they need. And you'll be part of a very special group helping seniors. And lastly, here's our contact information. So when you get this recording, you will have all of the numbers and ways to reach us as you can. And you can also reach out on Facebook and Twitter to us to send DMs or otherwise. And we answer a lot of questions that way as well. So I'm going to say thank you, Monica. That was wonderful. If any of the feedback in chat is any indication, there's a lot of people who got a lot out of this, and we're very, very grateful to you.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Meg, there's one more in chat. There's wondering if there's an email for Grand Falls, Windsor, or Stephenville.
Email me and I'll get that to you. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'm headed off. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good job as always.
Thanks for being with us. Nice to see you, Noreen.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.